you do that? How did you do that?
Welcome back everyone to another ESO build video. Today I'm going to be giving you the update to the Easy Sorc for the WolfHunter DLC. Now I know people have been waiting for this for a little while now and a bit worried about how much has changed and how much hasn't. Don't panic, you are fine, you're in safe hands. Now this is built for sustained survivability, high single target damage and massive AoE damage combined. And this is capable of all content and you can use it no matter what level you are. Of course there are ways to optimize it, but there are also ways to start out as well. So, first of all, we're going to go into the stats. We'll just buff up a little bit. We are sitting on almost 43k max Magicka. If you go with everything, you will hit 43k, but that's not really that relevant. 858 Magicka recovery, 2.7k spell damage, which does go up with our weapon glyph, and almost 60% spell critical chance. Now, that goes a little bit higher, but I've got a duff trait, which I do need to change, so don't worry too much about that, but we're almost at 60% anyway. Our spell resistance and physical resistance just fell off. And they are at 18.1 and 16.2, so really tanky as well, especially for a Magicka DPS. We are using all max Magicka. We have almost 17.1k health, almost 17.2 in fact, so we are fairly safe in the health region as well. 64 points into there, so we're good. Thief Munderstone, and of course we are using max health match Magicka food. Based on our rotation, we do not need Witch Mothers. In fact, that will put our health down and our magic down, so our damage will go down as well with this particular build. We're going for flat stats and we can sustain all day long. It's just fine. We do have Minor Slayer, increasing our damage by 5% to dungeons and trial monsters, but that will be explained in the sets. And of course we're a stage 4 vampire. That will also be explained. Now, first I'm going to go into the skills. I'm going to explain these in detail, especially if you are not familiar with the Sorcerer itself or where these abilities come from. I'm going to show you where they are, what morphs they were to start with, and I'm going to explain how they work. Now, first of all, we're using Inner Light. This comes from the Mage's Guild skill line. This is Mage's Guild level 2, in fact. Now, all you need to do is put this on your bar. This will give you 5% increase to your maximum magic pool, and this will also give you a 10% increase to your spell critical in the form of Major Prophecy. Now, this is only while you're on this particular bar, but you will get that bonus. It doesn't stack with any other Major Prophecy bonuses, but basically the 2191 there means 10%. I don't know why they're still in digits, but it's 10%. You don't have to activate the ability at all. Just leave it on your bar. Now, the next ability is Shock Clench. In fact, it's called Destructive Clench, but it changes its name depending on which element your staff is. We're using a lightning staff, so it's called Shock Clench. It's the third ability you unlock in the Destruction Staff skill line. Starts off as Destructive Touch. You want to morph it to Destructive Clench, which as you can see says Shock Clench. Now, this will hit the target for direct damage and splash nearby enemies as well. And then after it's hit the target, it will do damage over time for 8 seconds in the form of lightning or shock damage. There's the hit. It will hit targets nearby as well. Ignore the flames, by the way. I'll explain that later. And you can reapply it and it'll just start the dot again. Very simple. Keep that in your rotation at all times. That will be explained. However, this is a flex slot. Certain enemies require to be interrupted, shall we say, during mechanics to stop them from killing the group or whatever it is they're doing. In that situation, you can replace it with Crushing Shock. This is the first ability to unlock in the Destruction Staff skill line. If I can find the... There we go. It starts off as Force Shock, morph it to Crushing Shock specifically. Now I know Force Pulse does area of effect damage as well, but this does single target, 3 hits in 1, Flame, Frost and Lightning, but also interrupts the target from long range. So if they're channeling or casting or whatever, you can stop them instantly, and you can set them off balance for the privilege as well. Off balance will be explained when I get to the status section in the Destruction Staff passives. Hardened Ward is our next ability. This is in the Sorcerer skill line abilities. In fact, it's in Daedric. No, it's not. Daedric Summoning. Fourth ability to unlock. This does take some time to get to, but what you need to do is put this on your bar as soon as possible and morph it from Conjured Ward to Hardened Ward. Now, this will give you a shield. As you can see, our health is coated with a damage shield, but while it's active, we actually get a stronger shield. You can see 16.7 there, but once we activate it, it will actually be stronger. 20.6. So just double tap it. If you activate it and it hasn't run out yet and you reapply it, it will get stronger. So don't spam it too much, but in certain situations you can take advantage of that. But above all, if you're taking damage and you think you're going to die, put this on and you most likely won't, unless it's a one-shot mechanic. This will protect you. It doesn't have any resists, so it's flat damage, but it will save you nonetheless in certain situations. Now, the next ability is Bound Aegis. This is very, very simple, although people have made it really confusing because people don't read. Now, In this particular skill line, again, this is the next one you unlock. It does take some time to get. Starts off as bound armor, morph it to bound Aegis, because that's the Magicka variation of it. And for putting it on your bar, most people just read the text at the top where it says protect yourself with the power of oblivion, blah, 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 blah. That's not the important part. The important part is the passive underneath. For having this on your bar, you will have 8% increased maximum Magicka, along with the 5% from Inner Light. And you will also gain minor ward and minor resolve, giving you a small amount of resistances to your spell and physical resistance. Now, they don't stack. So if you get minor ward or minor resolve from somewhere else, you won't get it twice, you'll just get it once. But this is with you all the time. Now, the part that people have been reading, which have misunderstood, is this part here. The 20% block mitigation for 3 seconds. They think the ability just lasts 3 seconds, so it's useless. No. The maximum magic and the resistance stays with you forever, as long as it's on your bar. Now, activating it, if you're blocking, put a damage shield on, you'll take less damage. But while blocking, if you activate this, you will take 20% less damage for having that active. It only lasts 3 seconds because you're supposed to tactically use it. If you don't want to utilize that particular skill for that bonus, don't worry about it. Just ignore it and leave it on your bar, and you will get those bonuses at the bottom there. There's been so much panic about this in Somerset, it was honestly just because people weren't reading how this has been altered. Now, Mage's Wrath is the next ability that's in Stormcolon. It's the first ability we actually unlock in this particular skill line. It starts off as Mage's Fury, morph it to Mage's Wrath. This is an execute. What I mean by that is this hits the target for X amount of damage, but you can see it's ticking over on him. If he reaches 20% health while that is ticking over, it will pop and explode and do an extra amount of damage, quite a lot of damage in fact, and do splash damage to nearby targets. But if he's already at 20% health, this is where you start spamming this ability inside your rotation and do stupid amount of damage, because targets under 20% health will take tons of shock damage from this. This is very, very powerful indeed. Make sure it's on your front bar, make sure it's here, not necessarily in that slot, you put it where you want. This is just how I line up the bar, but make sure it is on your front bar. That's your main execute. Now, Ice Comet. This is very important for the passives. I do not use this ability as a DPS ability unless the target is almost dead. If I don't have enough ultimate to use my back bar ultimate, that's the one we use all the time without fail, I use this just to finish something off. If I've got enough for the back bar ultimate, I will use that without a doubt. This is just here for passives. I will go over those in a moment. Back bar, bound Aegis, just like the front bar. Double bar it. Ignore my positioning of skills, they're a bit weird. But as long as it's on both bars, you're fine. So we don't need to go over that, we've already done it. The next ability is Elemental Blockade, which is known as Blockade of Storms if you have a light and stuff on, which we do on the back bar. This is a second ability you unlock in the Destro Staff skill line, and you morph it from Wall of Elements to Elemental Blockade. Now this will do damage once a second to enemies caught inside of this. And it looks like this. As you can see, lots of lightning on the floor. This comes with a little bit of a perk. He's off balance pretty much instantly. That is because I applied a status effect from lightning to him straight away, which was luck. And at the same time, if anything is affected with the concussion status effect from lightning, you will also knock it off balance. That's very important. You'll knock it off balance for 5 seconds. Now, concussion, like I said, is a status effect from lightning. You have a chance to fire that off. That will apply minor vulnerability to the target, allowing everyone to do an 8% increased damage to them. At the same time, this, if it is active, will knock them off balance. Off balance is kind of a buff, if you like, for the group, because if you do a heavy attack during an off balance period, you will get back double resources from your heavy attack. Whether it's magic or stamina, whatever weapons you're using, you get double resources back. And you will do an increased 70% damage on your heavy attack. That's very important. We'll go over that again later. But Wall of Elements must be under your target at all times while you're doing damage. It's crucial to understand that for this particular build. Next ability is Boundless Storms. This is very, very strong and overlooked, I might say. Most people use it just to speed around and put a bit of a resist buff on, but this is really, really handy because it does quite a bit of damage as well. And this can keep you alive with our next skill, in conjunction with our next skill rather. Storm Calling is where it comes from. It's a second ability you unlock. It starts off as lightning form, morph it into Boundless Storms. Now this will do damage every 1 second for 23 seconds. It'll give you a speed buff for 7.5 seconds to start with, but look, every second it will do damage to nearby targets. Anyone within this much range. That is important to note because our next ability, also it gives you Major Ward and Major Resolve, by the way. 5280 physical and spell resistance. Major Ward, not minor. So it does stack with the minor bonus from Bound Aegis. So you've got 2 resist bonuses here. Now, Power Surge is our next ability. This comes from Stormcalling also. 4th ability to unlock. Starts off as Surge. Make sure you morph it specifically to Power Surge because this will give us Major Sorcery, increasing our spell damage by 20% for 33 seconds. But while doing so, any critical damage that we do will heal us for a stupid amount of health, which can be buffed with other external bonuses and stuff to extra healing received and stuff like that, every 1 second. So all we have to do is have some damage running, including Boundless. As long as we crit, there's a crit, there's another one, another one, another one. We are healing all the time right now. Constant. Our survivability just went up. It's crazy. Very, very strong indeed. Keep these 2 buffs up all the time. Liquid Lightning. This is in the Stormcalling skill line. Again, more Stormcalling. We've got loads of it. 3rd ability to unlock. Starts off as Lightning Splash. Morph it to Liquid Lightning. 10-second damage over time ability. Small area of effect. But for 10 seconds, enemies will take damage once a second from that. Lined up with our Wall of Elements and Boundless, we do a lot of damage. And we haven't even started hitting yet. Really, really nice indeed. Keep that on the target at all times. Now, during the rotation, I will go over all the details of it, but we have Liquid Lightning first, Wall of Elements second. That is because Liquid Lightning lasts 10 seconds, Wall of Elements lasts 8. We want to make sure that we put this down, this goes on. When the wall runs out, it's about the same time as Liquid Lightning runs out. We can reapply them both again. It's more efficient to keep them in that order. Any other order, you might be overlapping Liquid Lightning too soon just to try and keep up with the Wall of Elements, and you end up spamming unnecessary resources. But we'll get to that. Thunderous Rage. This is the important one. Destruction Staff skill line. You need 50 to unlock this. This is the ultimate that comes with it. Elemental Rage it is called, unless of course you're holding a Lightning Staff. It's called Thunderous Rage instead. Starts off as Elemental Storm. You want to get Rage, not Eye, because this one can be cast wherever you want, whereas Eye sticks to you. For being Lightning, however, this actually has an increased duration. We actually have 9 seconds out of this instead of 7, and it deals shock damage to everyone caught inside of this, and it is devastating. It does a lot of damage. Don't know if I've got it. Yes, I do. I missed the target, but never mind. You get to see the idea of what it does. Anything caught in there gets wrecked, and of course, all your other lightning stuff can go off as well at the same time. You get the idea. This is incredibly focused on lightning damage for good reason as well when I get to the passives. I think that's it. Oh, the ultimate, this one here. I said it's here for the passives. It is. You can switch out for Suppression Field. If you don't have Mage's Guild level 10, don't panic. You can use Suppression Field instead. You get an alternate passive, which will also contribute towards your damage, which I'm coming to in a moment. But above all, this will put down a massive globe on the ground for 12 seconds, doing damage every half a second, and whoever's caught inside of it will be stunned, unless they're a boss. So this is your oh shit ultimate. You can put this on the bar instead if you prefer. Maelstrom, by the way, bit of a pro tip for you. Round 2. The Sentinels, the big ones, Centurions, whatever you want to call them, they sit down at certain increments of their health. However, if you put this on their head, as long as they die within the 12 seconds, they will never sit down. So there's a tip for you there. Also, round 7, the poison round. People who like to speed run and stuff like that, of course you can drop a Destro ulti on the troll's head, kill them fast. But if they're going through their animations at the wrong time and they try and enrage, they waste about 5 or 6 seconds trying to grow and enrage and all the rest of it, and your score gets hit. Or they just might hit you too hard and you struggle with them. If you put the negate bubble on their head, they can't enrage. Also, the last round in Maelstrom Arena, if you put a negate bubble on top of Jeff is a Daedroth, by the way, fire-breathing bastard, everybody knows who he is. If you put a negate bubble on top of his head and you stay inside the bubble with him, he will not burst into flames and he will never breathe fire on you. So for those of you struggling with those guys, this will help. Anyway, ultimately, you want to make sure that you've got the Ice Comet on there for the majority of the time if you have access to it. If you don't, Suppression Field is just fine. Don't panic. Now, passives. These are very, very important, of course. We're going to start with our class passives first of all. Now, this reduces the magic and stamina cost of your abilities. No brainer. Make sure you get it. Blood Magic. This one actually increases, gives you a heal, if you use a Dark Magic ability. That fires if you use Negate Bubble. We don't have any other Dark Magic abilities on, so it's irrelevant really, unless of course you want to spend the extra points. I would probably just dump that, but in the situation that it counts, of course you can utilize it if you want. Also, After blocking an attack, your next Magicka or stamina ability cost is reduced by 15%, which is obviously very, very nice. We are going to block, we are going to take damage. Next ability is cheaper, why not? And this one as well, we do get Minor Prophecy, increasing our crit chance by roughly 3% for 20 seconds if you throw down a Dark Magic ability. For you and the group, in fact. That is a nice tiny buff. Probably too small in my opinion, but that's only ever going to work if you fire a negate bubble, because we're not using any other Dark Magic ability. So again, this one you can dump if you don't want it. So Blood Magic and Exploitation, you don't have to have, but these two I would definitely buy, Persistent and Unholy Knowledge. Daedric Summoning. These are going to be important, but not the top one or the bottom one. This is for pets, we're not using one. This is for pets, we're not using one. You will want this because it reduces the ultimate cost by 15%, and our death royalty costs like 240 to start with. It's now down to 213, which is a big, big difference. And of course, you're going to want this. This does increase your stamina recovery for having a Daedric summoning ability slotted. We have the shield, we have the Bound Aegis on both bars, in fact. So whatever bar we're on, we will get this 20% increase to recovery. I know we're not using stamina as a resource as such for damage, but we are using it to block, dodge roll, and break free. So we want to make sure we get it back quickly if we can. So this recovery bonus is really nice. Storm Calling, get every single one of these. Increase your Magicka recovery by 10%. Essential stuff, you want to make sure you can hit stuff. Increases your physical and shock damage by 5%. So any lightning damage we do, as you just saw, we do shit tons of it. 5% increase to all those abilities, including your light and heavy attack, by the way. When you deal shock damage, this is a big one. You have a 6% chance per tick of damage that you do per ability, which stacks to be a lot, to disintegrate the enemies by doing 11k damage anytime this passive procs to any enemy that is below 15% health. So if you put down Wall of Elements, Liquid Lightning, Boundless Storms, Death Royalty, you can see how this 6% starts calculating up and up and up. And as long as they're low health, this is going to start smashing stuff to bits. And it's not 11k. You can crit it, you can count your Bloodthirsty trait from your weapon, jewelry, sorry, which I'm going to get to. And this actually goes up to a much, much higher number, pushing sort of 27 to 30 plus if you're buffed. It's really, really handy. Also, increases your weapon and spell damage by 2% for each sorcerer ability slotted. Now this is where the negate bubble comes in. If you don't have Mage's Guild, you can use the negate bubble and you will get a further 2% increase to your spell damage. Spell damage used to be quite heavy towards your light and heavy attacks in comparison to your max resources. But in Somerset, they changed it so that your max resources now contribute much more towards your light and heavy attacks. Spell damage does still contribute, but massive resources obviously boost it a bit more. So you can have the spell damage still, you can still get something from it, you can still increase your damage. But the Ice Comet gives you Magicka instead, which is coming up in a second. I'll get to the Mage's Guild. So it's a trade-off, one or the other. Mage's Guild passives are slightly higher, Sorc passives are just fine. However, there's a slight bug at the moment. We do have 3 sorcerer abilities on here, so we should get a 6% bonus, but we're only getting a 4. Because Mage's Wrath, for some reason, is not registering as a Sorc ability, even though it should. So hopefully they fix that with the next patch, but you will still get the bonuses nonetheless, and Negate Bubble does still work, and you'll get 6% across the board here, which is handy. So you are going to want to get that as soon as possible. Now, Destro Staff skills. These are important. Your heavy attacks do damage to nearby targets. Up to 100% of the damage done to nearby enemies. It's crazy. It's very, very strong. Now, the damage you do to enemies nearby cannot crit. So the damage you do needs to be high. And this will make sense when I get to the actual gear, because our heavy attacks are huge. Penetrating magic, this is really, really important as well. Any Destro Staff abilities you use, including your lights and heavies, go through 10% of the target's resistance, which is really handy. Increases your chance to apply burn and concussion and chilled status effects. Now, of course, we are applying concussion effects from our lightning status effects. This doesn't increase your chance by 100%, like 100% overall, meaning you will always do it. It's 100% from the base, whatever that may be. Now, when we apply concussion, like I said, we apply minor vulnerability. When we do that, we can then apply off balance from our Wall of Elements. When they're off balance, we do more damage from our heavies and we get double resources. And if we do higher heavies, we do more splash damage. So you can see where this is going. There's more. Ancient Knowledge. For using a lightning staff, make sure you have an ability on your bar for this, by the way, you get increased 8% area of effect damage. The splash damage you do from your heavy attack contributes towards this. That is a further 8% damage, so your AoE is up. Not to mention, of course, our Destruction Staff ultimate. This, Bound of Storms, Wall of Elements, our heavy splash damage, and Destructive Clench, the initial hit, are all splash damage. They're all area of effect. They all contribute towards this particular passive. So for having your front bar as a lightning staff while doing area of effect damage, this makes it very, very strong indeed. And of course, if you kill something with your Destruction Staff ability or light or heavy attack, you will get 3600 Magicka back. Our recovery or our sustain is very, very high because we are going to be using heavy attacks on our front bar. We're going to be using Destro skills as well involved. If we kill something, it's going to give us so much back. It's disgusting. Now, we are using 5 pieces of light armor. Get every single one of these. They will contribute towards your recovery, towards your reduction to cost for your abilities. They will increase your spell resistance. They will increase your critical chance by a further 10%. And of course, you will go through the target's resistance by 4884. Now, generally, the enemies have a resistance of 18,200. Now, what you need to do, of course, with buffs, debuffs, and stuff like this is try and meet that number. So the more penetrating values you have from buffs and debuffs, the closer you get to 0, the more damage you will do. Once they hit 0, you will do your maximum damage that you can personally put out, excluding any additional buffs to your stats. But your flat damage will go as far as it can. If you over penetrate, you'll of course do no extra damage, but you have to calculate that yourself. But inside the build, I've already done some of that for you, so don't worry, that is coming. Medium armor, of course, we're only using 1 piece of medium armor, so these aren't really that relevant, but you do want to get this one here for the stam recovery, so you can use your blocks and dodges and breaks more often. And of course, this one here, meaning that if you do dodge roll, the cost is reduced. So for 1 piece, we get a 4% recovery and 4% reduction to dodge roll. Heavy armor, of course, you want to get these if you've got the spare points. This will increase your resistance per piece, which is quite small, but it helps. This will give us resources back for each piece that we wear once every 4 seconds. It's not huge, but it may count, especially towards your blocks and all that kind of stuff, because you will get stand back from this as well. And of course, for using 1 piece of heavy armor, we will get an extra 2% increased max health, which is essential because we want to make sure we're not too squishy. This is very, very important. Increases our Magicka recovery by 10% and our stam recovery by 10%. That is very, very important. Make sure you get that as soon as possible. And of course, be stage 2 or above in Vampire. Undeath is crazy. If you're stage 3 or above, you will actually take less damage the lower your health is. So if you go under 50% health, you can take a maximum of up to 33% less damage the lower you go. You get tankier the less health you have. It's very, very strong and adds to your survivability, especially since you can heal yourself by doing damage. Put a damage shield on at low health, have your damage ticking over. As long as your buff is on, you're going to survive. It's really, really handy. This one reduces the severity of health recovery as a vampire. It's not that important, but I would advise you to probably get it just to take the edge off. One more major factor to being a vampire, of course, is that you do take extra damage from fire. I do not struggle with that at all because there are several ways to get out of fire. Usually block, dodge roll, or if it's like that on the ground, just simply step out of it. It's very, very simple. People mostly die in fire because they're standing in it. And let's face it, most fire mechanics in the game are so powerful that they'll kill you even if you're not a vampire. So just be careful, watch your feet. Fighters Guild, of course, we are going to need this. This will give you 9 ultimate back for every undead, daedra, or werewolf that you actually kill yourself. If you get the killing blow, 9 ultimate back, you can use your Destro ulti more often and destroy stuff. Mages Guild, again, I said Ice Comet is there for max magic increase from the passives. This is where they are. You want to make sure that you get this passive here. This will increase your max magicka and your recovery by 2% for each ability slotted. And of course, we have one here and we have one here. This will contribute to our overall pool, making sure that we do more damage with our lights, our heavies, and our skills as well. And this is not negated. That's a further 5%, that's at 8%, and this is 2, and this is 2 again. You can see how this calculates up. It makes a big, big difference. Also, if you do activate a Mage's Guild ability, your next light attack will be stronger. So if you use an Ice Comet at the very end and you have a light attack in there somewhere, it will be stronger. If you're starting a fight and you just want to sneak in one of these because you're throwing in a light attack, that can be stronger. But honestly, you probably won't even need to. So that's not that important, but this particular one is. And of course, you might want to get the durated effect one, just in case you fire a Ice Comet at the end of a fight, really, really low health, and this will make the dot from the Ice Comet last longer. It has an initial hit and then a damage over time afterwards. It's not stronger than a Destro ulti on this setup, not even close to it. And of course, the initial hit could fail crit, which is a massive loss in DPS. But if it's an oh shit situation, you're about to kill it, you don't have enough to run the Destro ulti, fire this off, you'll be just fine. Undaunted, of course, Very, very important. If you take a synergy, you get resources back. Stop leaving the synergies on the ground for everybody else. Take the bone shields, take the spears, take the novas, take them. You will get stuff back. They're good for you. They will do damage. They will protect you, and you get this passive. Very important indeed. Also, for having 3 different types of armor, which we do, 5 light, so that's one type, 1 medium, so that's 2 types, and 1 heavy, so that's 3 types. We get 2% for each one, amounting to 6% overall max resources. So 6% stam, 6% magic, and 6% max health. Get those as soon as possible. We are a high elf, of course, which means we get 9% increased max recovery. We also get 10% increased max magic, and we have an increase to flame, frost, and shock damage. Now, the shock damage is very important, of course, because that's basically all we're doing, apart from our flame effect, which I'll get to. And that contributes alongside, or calculates alongside, of our Sorc passive, which gives us a further 5% shock. So we have very high shock damage. Now, alchemy again is one of my favorite passives in the game. If you get this to level 50, you can just dump all your skills and just put it into medicinal use if you want. Fair enough, you can keep them if you want to make potions. Now, if you're feeling really flashy, you can take off this and replace it with inner light. So you've got it on both bars, so you have 5% magicka on both bars. That will give you an extra 500 or so extra damage, and you can use spell pots. Now, if you are intending on going squishy, you already know what I'm talking about. If not, and you want to actually heal while doing damage rather than relying on your healer all the time, don't worry about it, and you'll be fine. You can just use trash pots all day long. Medicinal use, however, will increase the duration of any bonuses you get from them by 30%. If it's a trash pot, it'd be quite nice. If it's a shiny one, you'll get 47.6 seconds out of it instead of 36 or so, which means the cooldown, which is 45 seconds, you will overrun, meaning you can keep that bonus up 100% of the time. Choice is yours, however. Depends on what type of group you're in. If they're going all ultra squish and you have to rely on your healers and they want you to pump out that tiny, tiny bit extra damage, be my guest, go for it. But I honestly wouldn't take off Power Surge. It's too powerful. It's really, really strong. But I will show it in the past anyway, so you get to see what it does versus the skeleton if you choose to do that. It's a tiny difference. Now, we're going on to the gear. We are, of course, using Undaunted Infiltrator. Yes, this is a medium set. It drops in Arx Corinium. You can do it on normal. For God's sake, don't just kill the boss and loot chests. The boss at the end can drop it. The chests can drop it. I have seen this drop from trash so many times. I know people have been farming it for weeks previous to this particular DLC, because it was released in Somerset, this particular choice of sets. But make sure you kill all the trash. They can drop this just as much as the boss can, except there's a lot more enemies in the dungeon than there is the last boss. Your chance is heightened by killing everything, so don't leave anything behind. Now, we're using a sharpened lightning staff on the front bar, which counts as 2 pieces of gear. Now, what this does, we want to make sure it's sharpened and we have a weapon and spell damage glyph, but what this does is give us max magic again, weapon crit, which is a useless trait for us, but when you use a magic ability, anything that costs magic, anything, on this bar, you will increase the damage of your light and heavy attacks for 10 seconds. And, you see my hands glow? The buff in the window at the bottom there, the helmet, it reapplies every time you use a magic ability. If I swap bars, it stays with me. I don't lose it. As long as I swap back within 10 seconds and use another magic ability, I will keep that up 100% of the time. And based on the rotation, I do that. I never runs out. Now, the 2-piece bonus is here on the front bar staff. The other 3 bonuses, of course, the other 3 items, because we're using 5 pieces of it, are in the jewelry. These are robust because they're a medium set, but because of jewelry crafting, you can change that. So we have 1 bloodthirsty, 1 infused, and another 1 infused as well, with spell damage on each one. So 2 infused, 1 bloodthirsty, and then the staff. Now, your back bar weapon is a lightning staff as well. The trait needs to be the same as I'm showing you, and so does the glyph, but you can use any back bar lightning staff you want, if you don't have Maelstrom. Is there a difference in damage? Yes, there is. Is the build still effective without it? Definitely. For all players, no matter what level you are, this will work for you. Now, willpower is a good choice, because you do, of course, get 1,400 extra magicka for it, if you have willpower on the back bar, but if not, you can make any crafted stuff, it doesn't matter, it's up to you. You're not on the bar long enough anyway, especially if you don't have the Maelstrom weapon already. It's not nitpick about optimizing if you don't have the Maelstrom stuff. The Maelstrom stuff is optimizing. Now, if you are comfortable with Maelstrom and if you're practiced enough and you're actually lucky enough to get one of these, this is what you want to use. You want to change it to infused instead of charged like it previously was, and put a shock glyph on it. WolfHunter altered some things with glyphs. Basically, if I fire this ability on this bar, the glyph will only fire while I'm on this bar. Previously. Now, this ability, because it procs the damage glyph, when I swap and the ability is still running, that glyph can still fire every time the cooldown runs out. Now, infused obviously reduces the cooldown, so I can fire this shock glyph basically every 2 seconds or so. Not far off it. So, with infused on the back bar, on the wall of elements, and swapping, every couple of seconds that glyph is going bang, 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 bang. It's firing left, right, and center. Previously, yes, we used charge to increase the status chance to knock the target off balance, but because the glyph is firing so often now, it is increasing our chance to apply concussion while wall of elements is already down, meaning we'll still get roughly the same sort of uptime on off balance by ourselves, let alone with other people using it as well. Off balance instantly. Simple as that. Now, where's the other gear? So, this set will increase our light and heavy attack so long as we have used a Magicka ability and we get the buff. This, while something is in your wall of elements, your light and heavies are also increased, and yes, they do stack. The next set, don't panic, I know it's a trial set, can be done on normal. There are many, many pickup groups out there all day long. I've seen it on multiple servers. I play on all 6 servers, by the way, and half the people don't even know who I am anyway, so I just jump in at any level and I get these trials done. They are not difficult to get into on normal, so don't be scared. If you see people in Grapwood or Craglorn or whatever saying, I'm running normal Craglorn trials or I'm running AA or whatever, jump in, get your loot, and get out. You don't need the weapons, you don't need the jewelry, you just need the body pieces. Chest, legs, hand, belt, feet. That's all you need. Now it's Infallible Ether, it drops from normal Sanctum Ophidia, normal Arthurian Archive, or normal Hellra. You can get them on Vet if you want, but if you just want to get the gear and you're scared of Vet trials or don't think you're capable of getting in them or just too scared to ask, normal trials are pugged all day long. Get stuck in, get this. Failing that, get Netch's Touch from Darkshade, you'll be just fine. But this is stronger. Now what this does is this will give you a spell crit bonus, it will give you minus Slayer, increasing your damage done in Dungeons and Trials by 5%. That works for Maelstrom as well, by the way. It gives you spell damage and a further spell crit. We have really high spell crit and we need it. Now, this bonus on the end is screamed about a lot because lots of people think that you don't need more than one in a group because it's double stacking a bonus that doesn't reapply on top of itself or doesn't stack if you want. Correct, it doesn't stack. Minor vulnerability is probably there most of the time anyway, so when you apply this and he's all pink, he's got minor vulnerability on him, who cares if another one's got it? You don't want to stack them up, do you? That's not important. That's not the reason for this set. The reason for the set is the other part on your 5th piece bonus. This is a double stacking bonus. You get 2 different ones. You get minor vulnerability, but you also get an increased amount of damage when you finish a fully charged heavy attack. Now that 903 also stacks on top of this from your Undaunted Infiltrator, and it also stacks on top of this from your Maelstrom weapon inside your Wall of Elements. I've tried God knows how many different combinations, and before anybody asks, yes, of course I've tried the most obvious set in the game with light and heavy attacks, aka Elegant. Yes, I've tried it, and it was about 7k DPS less because it was too much into one thing and not enough into everything else. It didn't work out, but I'm going to show you how this works. We proc our buffs, we put Wall of Elements down, knock him off balance, go on. There's your heavy attack. Pop at the end. You see that pop that did like 12k without a crit? That can actually do about 17k on your own. So ignore the heavy because he's immune to off balance at the moment. There's 11k there without it being off balance. When it is off balance, see if we can get this to work because it's being stubborn. Come on. Come on! Stupid skeleton. There we go, 22.3. Now, obviously he's low health, so that will hit a bit harder. When you're in a group or a dungeon or a trial or whatever, that pop at the end is what makes the big difference. The stack and bonuses from the 3 sets combined with that tiny stat looking bonus. It looks really small in the stats. Makes a huge difference to that final pop. I tried many other sets, and none of them even match that. It's really, really high. So don't look at Unfathomable Ether, crit and Minor Slayer aside, and just assume it's for minor vulnerability. It's not. If you got multiple people with it, to be honest, all the better, because if you're hitting this target and someone else is hitting this nub over here, and then they get stacked together, they've both got minor vulnerability. It's a win-win situation. But that's not what it's for. So, we are using one more set, by the way. We're using Groftar. I'm sure you've seen the flames. We are using 2 pieces of Groftar, and basically this adds a 1-piece max magic bonus, increasing our damage, of course. And if you do any damage, you get a flame circle around you for 5 seconds, doing damage every 1 second in an 8-meter radius, which is fairly large. 5-second cooldown, then it can fire again. Now this is why you stack your Boundless and your abilities all close together and stay close to the target, because when that fires, anyone caught in that circle is going to get zapped with Boundless and is going to get hit with Groftar. It's incredible. The stack and bonuses to those 2 abilities close range are nuts, and because our resists are high and because we heal from our power surge, we can actually get in the thick of it and take quite a bit of damage and not be a burden. Versus some stamina DPSs who don't have the ability to have a damage shield, they don't have self-heals like we do, and they also don't have the resist we do because they can't slot this. Except for perhaps if you have a Stam Sorc or a Nightblade or something like that. But let's just say for argument's sake a DK, you've got to slot a resist buff, not have one that actually does damage as well and be viable in this sort of situation. This particular setup is very balanced for damage, including close quarter damage, especially close quarter damage, and doing lots and lots of AoE while surviving at the same time. And sustaining. Now we're going to get to that in the rotation in a second. We'll just go over the traits. Sharpened, weapon and spell damage glyph. Infused shock glyph on the back. Infused head, which is heavy, and Divine's shoulder. I know it's sturdy, I need to retrait it. I've got a shit trait. What can you do? But heavy and medium. In any order, in fact. You can have heavy here and medium here instead. Then 5 pieces of Infallible Ether. Infused on the chest. Divines on the belt, Divines on the hands, Infused on the legs, Divines on the feet. Jewelry, infused, bloodthirsty, with spell damage on everything. Make sure, by the way, that you glyph change the helmet and the shoulders, because they will come in stamina and health, I believe. So make sure you sort those out. Now, rotation. What you need to do, keep your Boundless Storms up, keep your Power Surge up at all times. You can see them in the buff window there. Do not let them run out, and if they do run out, put them on quick. Pro tip, by the way, if you are in trouble and your Power Surge runs out, you don't stand there and put on Power Surge, because you are a target. What you do is you shield first, then Power Surge, and make sure some damage is down so you can heal from it. It's very important. Shield first, Power Surge second, if you get caught short. Rest of the time it should fit inside your rotation anyway. However, make sure your hands are glowing when you enter the fight. Make sure your buffs are on. Liquid Lightning. Light attack, Boundless Storms, light attack, Wall of Elements, swap bars. That's your first part. Heavy attack, Crushing Shock or Clench, whichever you've got on. Heavy attack again, Crushing Shock or Clench, whichever you've got on. Swap bars. That's your second part. We basically now start again, but with a twist. Liquid Lightning, light attack. Not Boundless Storms this time. Power Surge this time. Light attack again. Wall of Elements. Swap. Heavy. Ability. Heavy. Ability. Swap. Liquid Lightning. Light. Boundless this time. So every second rotation you use Boundless, and every other second rotation you use Power Surge. So Lightning, light, Boundless, light, wall, swap. Next time, Lightning, light, power, light, swap with the wall. I'm going to show you what it looks like on a skeleton, although he's going to die. In fact, we'll use this one. Ignore the numbers because we are not buffing up properly. Liquid Lightning, light attack, Boundless, light attack, wall, swap. Heavy, Crushing Shock or Clench. Heavy, Crushing Shock or Clench. Swap, Lightning, light power, light wall, swap. Start again from the very beginning. Heavy, ability, heavy, ability, swap. Liquid, light Boundless, you get the idea. Light wall, swap, and just repeat. That's all you have to do, excluding, of course, if you need to shield up or use an ultimate. Very, very simple. That keeps 100% uptime on your buffs. It keeps 100% uptime almost on your ground AoEs, so long as you are fast at swapping bars, and everything flows together. You meet all of your passives in the middle. You're doing splash damage, you're knocking things off balance, you're doing additional heavy damage, you're doing additional splash damage, you're doing additional return for your resources, and everything fits nicely. Also, if you keep this up during execute while throwing out some of these, you will actually do free execute damage as well. Just remember, Wall of Elements must always be down. Never take that off. It's got to be running all the time. Now, I'm going to show you a rotation really quick after the CP. So we'll get into champion points first. I'll show you an actual dummy pass. So 61 points into Ironclad to reduce the amount of direct damage you take. 1 point into Spell Shield because that one is spare and I can't get any extra percentage increases on any of my abilities. It's a spare CP, so just put it where you want. 64 into Hardy, 64 into Elemental Defender, meaning we have a 13% reduction to all damage across the board. 51 points into Thick Skinned, meaning we have a 19% reduction to all damage over time. 19 points into Quick Recovery, increasing our healing received, which includes the heals that we do from our Power Surge and stuff like that. Plus, of course, if you have 10 points in this tree, you will take 15% damage while resurrecting people. Little tip for that, by the way, while resurrecting people, make sure your Boundless is on, make sure that your Power Surge is on, shield up first, res second. That way, if anything gets too close, if it touches your Boundless Storms, you will heal passively every single tick so long as it crits while you're resurrecting. It's really, really tricky, but it works really well. 34 points into Warlord, so we get a 14% reduction to break free. We need to do that, make sure you get some points in. 75 points into Tenacity, meaning that we get 14% back when we heavy attack. Also, we get more when we do a heavy attack during off balance as well. It's very important. 75 points into Recovery, meaning we get a 14% increase to mag recovery as well. So not only do we get sustained from our heavies, but we also have good recovery. Now, I do dodge roll a lot in Maelstrom, so I normally put 72 points into here, giving us a 23% reduction. You can actually take them out of here and put more into Warlord if you prefer. However, the reason I've got 76 in here is because I've got 4 points spare doing nothing, and I might as well get the 75 to get the Treasure Hunter so I get more loot out of treasure chests. That's just a personal thing. You don't have to have that. You can change them. It's just how I've set it up. Now, this is important, however. 10 points into Spell Erosion. Our spell penetration, including a Taunt, or Major Breach, if you want to call it that, is about 14k. Remember, resistances are 18,200. So if we throw in Alkosh at 3k and a Crusher at 1 and a bit, we're going to hit cap quite easy. Now, if you are in a normal dungeon or trial situation, this is perfect. And although you will over-penetrate very, very slightly with a Crusher involved, or Minor Breach as well, in fact, you will obviously do extra damage to area of effect targets because they won't all have the same debuffs on them. Remember, Crusher's single target, so the adds around you, you're going to need penetration for them as well. So this actually is fine. However, if you are in an optimized situation and your group have all the shiny bells and whistles and you are over penetrating by about 1,000 or so, which you will be, you can drop this down to 0 and put your points elsewhere. But for everyday situations, this is solid. Also, we have 75 points into Elemental Expert, increasing our overall damage by 14%, which is everything we do is in this tree. So we have Flame from Grofdal, we have Shock from everything else, and we, of course, have magic damage from the Gate Bubble if you use it. 56 points into Crit. We are going to crit a lot, and we need to, so we boost the damage of that. 35 points into Staff Expert. We're using light attacks like hell on the back bar between our skills, and we're using heavy attacks between our skills on the front bar. This is important. Make sure you buff this up. And 9 points into Master at Arms, increasing our direct damage. So our light attacks and also our Destructive Clench or Crush and Shock, depending on which one you've chosen to put on. 75 points into Thaumaturge, increasing all of our damage over time, including our channeled heavy attack. And of course, that opens up the Exploiter passive, giving us extra damage if something's off balance. We get 70% increase on our heavy attacks. We also get a 10% increase to that and everything else while the target's off balance. It's very, very important. Now, I'm going to show you a quick skeleton demonstration. Just for the purpose of it, I have put Mage Light on the back, for those of you that want to use expensive potions, but you don't have to. The difference is minimal. It's literally about 500 to 1k DPS difference in it, if you're lucky. Failing that, to be honest, it's much, much safer to keep Power Surge on all the time. But this is for everyone, so I've catered for that as well, just in case people want to. Yes, I've tried with Haunting Curse. Yes, I've tried with other abilities on the back bar. No, the damage wasn't really any difference. Once in a blue moon, it was doing 2 or 3k DPS extra, but that was rare. You can get that with extra crits if you're lucky. Anyway, here we go. Okay, so hopefully that helped. Hopefully that wasn't too boring. Hopefully now I kind of have a better understanding of where this basically is on an average on a skeleton. Also, that does mean that, of course, all the damage that we're doing is area of effect, and that will splash and hit everything around it. So our area of effect is massive. Our sustain is covered. We don't need squishy food. We don't need to drop anything, in fact, to be able to survive, sustain, and perform. It's very, very strong across the board and user-friendly as well. It's very, very simple. Anyway. Firstly, thank you all very, very much for watching. I hugely appreciate the support. And if you are not subscribing, please do hit that button. It is free. Furthermore, if you want to help support the channel outside of YouTube, there are some links in the description for Patreon, Twitter, Facebook, and of course the website XynodeGaming.com. Don't forget also, I do stream on Twitch now. I'm part of the ESO stream team, so that's a happy plus as well, meaning that occasionally you will get free giveaways in the live stream if you are lucky. So keep your eyes peeled for those as well. Anyway, once again, thank you all very, very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.